April 22nd, 2024, Norman, Oklahoma. A quiet suburban neighborhood. A place where children rode their bikes after school, where families gathered for barbecues on the weekends. A place where crime was rare until that morning. At 7:15 a.m., a call came into 911. "Help! My family, they're not waking up." The voice belonged to 10-year-old Mason Parker. First responders rushed to the Parker family home, a modest single-story house with a neatly trimmed lawn. Inside, they found an unthinkable scene. The bodies of Brandon Parker, 40, Jessica Parker, 38, Nathan, 16, Elijah, 14, and Caleb, 12, were discovered in separate rooms, each with a single gunshot wound to the head. But one question haunted investigators immediately. Why was Mason left alive? The house showed no signs of forced entry. There were no signs of struggle. Nothing was stolen. As the small town of Norman reeled from the news, one thing became clear. This was not a random act of violence. This was something far more disturbing. A perfect family, or so it seemed. To the outside world, the Parker family seemed like the perfect American family. Small Blue Diamond Brandon Parker, 40. A hardworking father, known for his calm demeanor and dedication to his family. Small Blue Diamond Jessica Parker, 38. A loving mother, always present at school functions, known for baking cookies for the neighborhood kids. Small Blue Diamond Nathan, 16, Elijah, 14, and Caleb, 12. Three bright, well-mannered boys, active in school and sports. Small Blue Diamond Mason, 10. The youngest, the only survivor, a boy who would now carry the weight of unimaginable loss. The Parkers lived in a quiet neighborhood in Norman, Oklahoma. A place where neighbors exchanged Christmas cards and families felt safe leaving their doors unlocked. There was no history of domestic violence, no known financial struggles, no prior police reports. To everyone who knew them, the Parkers were just another happy family. But behind closed doors, was there something no one saw coming? Brandon Parker, a devoted father or a man hiding secrets? Brandon Parker was described as a devoted father, always present at his son's football games, often seen mowing the lawn or fixing things around the house. But beneath that ordinary exterior was something eating away at him. Small Blue Diamond, he only worked part-time. Small Blue Diamond Jessica was the primary breadwinner. Small Blue Diamond friends noticed he had become withdrawn in recent months. Was he hiding financial stress? Was there a breaking point that no one saw? The last family gathering. Just 2 nights before the tragedy, the Parkers had a family dinner at a local restaurant. Small Blue Diamond, a waitress, later recalled that everything seemed normal. Small Blue Diamond Brandon was quiet, but not visibly upset. Small Blue Diamond Jessica and the boys were laughing, enjoying their meal. Nothing about that night suggested that in less than 48 hours, 4 of them would be dead. The unanswered question: how does a seemingly happy family become the scene of a brutal murder-suicide? What led Brandon Parker, a husband and father, to kill his wife and 3 sons but spare 1 child? Investigators were desperate to find out. And as they dug deeper into Brandon Parker's life, they uncovered something far more unsettling than they ever imagined. April 21st, 2024, the night before. The Parker family's last night together appeared normal. Routine, even. Small Blue Diamond Jessica prepared dinner while the boys played video games in the living room. Small Blue Diamond Brandon sat at the kitchen table, quiet, distant. He barely touched his food. Small Blue Diamond Mason, the youngest, later recalled nothing seemed unusual. No one knew that, by morning, their world would be shattered forever. The final hours. Sometime between midnight and 5 a.m., Brandon Parker made his final, irreversible decision. Gun in hand, he moved through the house with eerie precision. Red Circle Jessica Parker, 38. Shot in her sleep, never had a chance to react. Red Circle Nathan, 16, Elijah, 14, and Caleb, 12. Each executed in their beds with no signs of struggle. The chilling detail? Each shot was placed directly to the head. This was not a crime of passion. This was methodical, calculated. But the most haunting part? Brandon Parker left Mason alive. Why? A haunting silence. By the time the sun rose, the house was eerily silent. Small Blue Diamond Mason woke up, expecting a normal school day. Small Blue Diamond instead, he walked down the hall and found his family, lifeless. Small Blue Diamond terrified, confused, alone. He picked up the phone and called 911. "Help my family, they're not waking up." As the dispatcher tried to keep him calm, the truth slowly unraveled. By the time police arrived, the nightmare was only beginning. The 911 call that shook a town. When 10-year-old Mason Parker dialed 911 at 7:15 a.m. on April 22, 2024, his voice was trembling. "Help my family, they're not waking up." The dispatcher tried to keep him calm, asking him to describe what he saw. "Mama, my brothers, they're on the floor. There's blood. They won't wake up." The operator's heart sank. This wasn't a medical emergency. This was a crime scene. Police and first responders rushed to the Parker home, sirens piercing the quiet morning. By the time they arrived, Mason was standing outside, shivering in the Oklahoma morning air. He had no visible injuries. He was in shock, pale, and barely able to speak. And inside the house, officers found a massacre. The crime scene. Detectives moved through the home carefully. Small Blue Diamond Jessica Parker, 38, was found in the master bedroom, a single gunshot wound to the head, her body still in bed. Small Blue Diamond Nathan, 16, Elijah, 14, and Caleb, 12, were found in their respective bedrooms, each shot execution style. Small Blue Diamond Brandon Parker, 40, was found on the living room floor, gun in hand, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But the biggest question remained. Why did he leave Mason alive? Why was Mason spared? Detectives immediately focused on one question. Magnifying glass tilted right, did Mason hide during the killings, and Brandon never found him? Magnifying glass tilted right, did Mason wake up, see something, and Brandon let him live? Magnifying glass tilted right, or did Brandon intentionally spare him for a reason only he knew? Investigators knew that, in most family annihilation cases, the perpetrator kills every member of the family, leaving no survivors. But this was different. Brandon Parker had a choice, and he chose to let Mason live. Was it guilt? Was it love? Was it part of a larger plan? No one knew for sure. The investigation intensifies. Small Blue Diamond detectives combed through Brandon's phone, emails, and financial records. Small Blue Diamond, they interviewed relatives, co-workers, and friends. Small Blue Diamond, they checked for signs of domestic abuse or hidden mental health struggles. But no clear motive emerged. Mason, the only survivor, was left with more questions than answers. And as detectives dug deeper into Brandon Parker's life, they realized this wasn't as simple as it seemed. Because the cracks in the Parker family's perfect life were about to be exposed. A man on the edge. On the surface, Brandon Parker appeared to be a devoted husband and father. Small Blue Diamond, he coached his son's soccer games. Small Blue Diamond, he attended school events. Small Blue Diamond, he was always seen with a warm, quiet demeanor. But behind closed doors, was he struggling with demons no one knew about? As investigators dug into his past, they began piecing together a different story. A story of stress, failure, and quiet desperation. Financial struggles and pressure at home. Small Blue Diamond Brandon only worked part-time, while Jessica was the primary provider for the family. Small Blue Diamond bills were piling up. Mortgage payments were late. Small Blue Diamond, a close friend, revealed that Brandon had recently complained about feeling useless and like a failure. Was the pressure of financial struggles pushing him toward a breaking point? Mental health, a silent battle? Small Blue Diamond Brandon never spoke about mental health issues. Small Blue Diamond, there was no history of depression or violent behavior. Small Blue Diamond, but close friends noted that he had become more distant in the last few months. His social media activity had also changed. Small Blue Diamond, he had deleted old family photos from his Facebook. Small Blue Diamond, he had stopped responding to group texts. Small Blue Diamond, he had searched for topics related to suicide and murder-suicide. Had Brandon been planning this for weeks? Or was it a sudden breakdown, an act of desperation in a single moment? Either way, one thing was clear, no one saw this coming. A man preparing for the unthinkable? As investigators dug deeper into Brandon Parker's final days, they began to see a disturbing pattern. subtle signs that something wasn't right. Small Blue Diamond. A week before the murders, Brandon abruptly canceled his gym membership. Small Blue Diamond. 3 days before, he stopped showing up at his part-time job. Small Blue Diamond. The night before the massacre, he withdrew $500 in cash from the family's savings account. What was he planning? Had he intended to run away before deciding on murder instead? Or was this his way of tying up loose ends before committing the unthinkable? A chilling search history. Investigators seized Brandon's laptop and phone, looking for clues to his mindset. What they found was disturbing. Magnifying glass tilted right. Recent Google searches included Crossmark family annihilation cases, Crossmark murder-suicide news stories, Crossmark how long does it take to die from a gunshot wound, Crossmark how to ensure a painless death. Brandon had been researching mass murders. Had he been fantasizing about killing his family for weeks? Or was this a desperate, last-minute decision fueled by panic and hopelessness? The last conversation. The night before the tragedy, Brandon received a text from his wife, Jessica. She had been staying late at work, and she texted him, envelope with arrow. "Hey, babe, everything okay? You've been quiet lately." He never responded. Instead, he turned off his phone. The unanswered question. Small Blue Diamond, why did he go through with it? Small Blue Diamond, was there a triggering event? Small Blue Diamond, why was Mason the only one spared? Red Circle. Some investigators believe that Brandon had planned the massacre for weeks. Red Circle. Others think it was a sudden act, a breaking point in a moment of despair. But only Brandon knew the real answer, and he took that truth to the grave. A town in mourning. When news of the Parker family massacre broke, the small town of Norman, Oklahoma was in complete shock. This was a quiet community where violent crime was almost unheard of. Neighbors gathered near the Parker home, staring in disbelief as police tape stretched across the front yard. Small Blue Diamond, I just saw them last week. They seemed so normal. A neighbor whispered. Small Blue Diamond, how could this happen? Brandon wasn't a violent man. A former co-worker said, shaking his head. Small Blue Diamond, we never saw any signs of trouble. A close family friend insisted. But the truth was, no one had seen the warning signs. Or if they had, they ignored them. Vigils, tears, and unanswered questions. Small Blue Diamond. That evening, a candlelight vigil was held outside the local church. Small Blue Diamond. Hundreds gathered, holding photos of Jessica, Nathan, Elijah, and Caleb. Small Blue Diamond. Mason Parker, the only survivor, was not in attendance. He was now in the care of relatives, away from the public eye. At the vigil, friends and teachers shared memories of the victims. Red Circle. Nathan, 16. He was such a talented musician. He always had his guitar with him. Red Circle. Elijah, 14. He was the funniest kid. He made everyone laugh. Red Circle. Caleb, 12. So full of energy. He wanted to be an athlete when he grew up. Their lives were cut short, and no one could understand why. A town demanding answers. As grief turned to anger, the town wanted answers. Small Blue Diamond, was this preventable? Small Blue Diamond, did Brandon show signs that were ignored? Small Blue Diamond, could something have been done to save this family? With so many unanswered questions, one thing was certain. This tragedy would never be forgotten. The investigation into the Parker family massacre left more questions than answers. With no history of violence, no known mental health struggles, and no clear warning signs, detectives were left trying to understand why a seemingly devoted father would kill his wife and 3 sons. One theory pointed to financial stress. Brandon had been working only part-time, while Jessica was the main provider for the family. Friends recalled he had become withdrawn in recent months. Bills were piling up, debts increasing. Had he reached a breaking point, believing there was no way out? Another theory suggested a hidden mental health crisis. Though there was no official diagnosis of depression or anxiety, subtle signs had been there. He had started isolating himself from friends, deleting social media posts, and spending hours alone in his room. Investigators found search history on his laptop that included topics like family annihilation cases and murder-suicide statistics. But the most disturbing question remained. Why was Mason left alive? In most family annihilation cases, the perpetrator kills everyone, leaving no survivors. Was Mason spared out of guilt? Did Brandon believe he was too young to understand? Or did he simply run out of the emotional strength to pull the trigger one last time? The case baffled even the most seasoned detectives. They combed through every detail, but no clear motive ever emerged. Brandon Parker had taken his secrets to the grave. But for those left behind, the pain, the questions, and the unrelenting grief would last forever. As investigators continued their search for answers, they focused on Brandon Parker's digital footprint. His phone records, emails, and search history were carefully examined, hoping to find any clue that could explain his final actions. What they uncovered was more disturbing than they anticipated. In the weeks leading up to the murders, Brandon had been researching cases eerily similar to his own. He had read articles on family annihilation, the psychology behind murder-suicides, and the final notes left by men who had done the same. Detectives also found an unsent email drafted the night before the killings. It was never sent, never shared. The message was brief and unsettling. I tried. I really did. But in the end, I failed them. I failed as a husband, as a father. This way, we can all be at peace. It was a confession, a final glimpse into the mind of a man who saw no escape from whatever torment he was facing. But one question still haunted investigators. Why was Mason spared? If Brandon believed this act would bring peace, why did he let his youngest son live? That mystery would never be solved. For Mason, the only survivor, there would never be peace. Only the weight of a past he could never escape. The town of Norman, Oklahoma, would never be the same. In the days following the massacre, grief gripped the community. People struggled to process how such a tragedy could happen in their quiet neighborhood. Families who once left their doors unlocked now looked at their own homes differently. A candlelight vigil was held outside the local church. Hundreds of people gathered, holding photographs of Jessica, Nathan, Elijah, and Caleb Parker. Tears streamed down faces as the victims were remembered. Nathan's music teacher spoke about his love for guitar, how he had dreams of becoming a musician. Elijah's football coach recalled his infectious energy on the field. Caleb's classmates talked about his dream of being an astronaut. But one name was never forgotten: Mason Parker, the lone survivor. He was not present at the vigil. He was now in the care of relatives, shielded from the public eye. People whispered, would he ever recover? How would he carry this burden for the rest of his life? No one had answers. Only one thing was certain: the Parker family was gone, and their absence left a wound that would never fully heal. Mason Parker was only 10 years old when he became the sole survivor of his family's massacre. In an instant, his world had been ripped apart. His mother, his father, his brothers gone. As the days passed, the town of Norman grieved the loss of the Parker family. But behind the public mourning, one child was left trying to make sense of a life that would never be the same. A child without a home. After being released from the hospital, Mason was placed in the care of his mother's sister, his aunt, who lived several hours away. Small Blue Diamond, he was kept away from media attention. Small Blue Diamond, he did not attend the funerals of his parents or siblings. Small Blue Diamond, he was shielded from most of the police investigation details. Authorities believed that Mason was too young to process the full horror of what had happened. Psychologists were brought in to help him cope with the trauma, but no therapy could fully erase the reality of what he had seen. For weeks, he barely spoke. When he did, it was only to ask one heartbreaking question: why did my dad let me live? It was a question no one could answer. Living with the unthinkable. Mason's case drew national attention. Donations poured in for his future. A GoFundMe campaign raised thousands of dollars to support his education and care. But no amount of money could fill the void that had been left behind. Small Blue Diamond, he refused to sleep alone, fearing the silence of an empty house. Small Blue Diamond, he avoided mirrors, struggling with the guilt of being the one who survived. Small Blue Diamond, he had nightmares, waking up screaming for his brothers. Mental health experts said Mason would likely battle survivor's guilt for the rest of his life. Why had his father spared him? Had Brandon regretted what he had done at the last moment? Had he intended to kill Mason too, but change his mind? The truth had died with Brandon Parker, a child's future in question. As the months passed, Mason's extended family tried to give him a sense of normalcy. He was enrolled in a new school under a different last name to protect him from public scrutiny. But no matter where he went, the past followed him. His classmates eventually learned the truth. People whispered when they saw him in town. No matter how much time passed, Mason Parker would always be the boy who survived. Some believed he would never recover from what had happened. Others hoped he would find strength in his survival. But one thing was certain. His life had been rewritten in blood, in tragedy, in loss. A boy who had once been part of a loving family was now the only one left to tell their story. Even as time passed, the Parker family massacre remained a haunting mystery in the town of Norman, Oklahoma. Detectives had examined every detail, combed through Brandon Parker's past, and analyzed his final days, but no single definitive answer ever emerged. People still asked the same painful questions, ones that would likely never be answered. Why did Brandon Parker do it? Despite endless speculation, Brandon's motive remained unclear. Some believe it was financial stress. He had been working part-time, and Jessica was the primary provider. Debt was accumulating, bills were overdue, and he felt trapped. Maybe, in his mind, he saw no way out. Others suspected a mental health crisis that went unnoticed. Had Brandon been struggling in silence for years? Did he finally reach a breaking point? There was no medical history of mental illness, no previous diagnosis of depression or suicidal tendencies. But sometimes, the deepest struggles are the ones no one sees. His final, unsent email seemed to hint at guilt, hopelessness, and self-loathing. I tried. I really did. But in the end, I failed them. I failed as a husband, as a father. This way, we can all be at peace. But if his motive was to bring his family peace, why did he let Mason live? Why was Mason spared? This was the most haunting mystery of all. Small Blue Diamond had Mason hidden during the attack, and Brandon simply didn't find him? Small Blue Diamond, did Brandon change his mind at the last second? Unable to kill his youngest son? Small Blue Diamond, did he believe Mason was too young to understand what had happened? Small Blue Diamond, or was Mason meant to survive, to carry his father's story? Family annihilation cases typically leave no survivors. The fact that Mason was left alive made this case even more chilling. Whatever the reason, Brandon had made a choice, one that would forever define Mason's future, a town that will never forget. Even after the funerals were held and the house was abandoned, the tragedy remained a stain on the town's history. Small Blue Diamond neighbors who once felt safe now double-checked their doors at night. Small Blue Diamond families who knew the Parkers still struggled to process what had happened. Small Blue Diamond people still whispered when they passed the empty Parker home, a house frozen in time, a reminder of what was lost. The town of Norman had experienced many tragedies before, but none like this. The legacy of the Parker family massacre. Mason Parker, now growing up in a new town, under a new name, would never escape the weight of his past. The only surviving member of a family taken too soon, his life would forever be defined by that morning. The day he woke up to a silence he would never forget. The story of the Parker family became more than just a tragedy. It became a warning that sometimes the people we trust the most are capable of the unimaginable. And the most terrifying part? No one ever saw it coming. Conclusion. This case remains one of the most chilling family massacres in recent history. A father with no history of violence. A mother and 3 sons who never saw it coming. A 10-year-old boy, now left to carry a past he will never escape. The Parker family massacre left behind more questions than answers. And maybe the answers died with Brandon Parker. The Parker family massacre leaves behind more questions than answers. Why did Brandon Parker do it? And why was Mason the only one spared? What do you think really happened that night? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this case compelling, subscribe for more true crime stories, turn on notifications, and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, sometimes the most chilling stories are real.